pit was gross, really, obviously untouched for years. The plastic spheres were covered in a gray, fuzzy dust. But hiding there would be a great prank on his dad. His dad, who was always dropping him off and picking him up like somebody's dry cleaning, would actually have to get out of the car and make an effort for a change. Oswald wouldn't make it easy for him either. Oswald took off his shoes. Yes, the ball pit was disgusting, but at least getting into it would make today different from all the other days that had come before it. He climbed into the pit and felt the balls parting to make room for his body. He moved his arms and legs. It was a little like swimming if you could swim in dry plastic spheres. He found his footing at the bottom of the pit. Some of the balls were strangely sticky, but he tried not to think about why. If he was going to trick his dad, he was going to have to go all the way under. He took a deep breath as if he were about to jump into a swimming pool and fell to his knees. That put him in up to his neck. Wiggling around so he was sitting on the pit's floor put his head under too. The balls spread apart far enough that he could breathe, but it was dark and made him feel claustrophobic. The place stank of dust and mildew. "Pink eye," he could hear his mother's voice saying. "You're going to get pink eye." The smell really was getting to him. The dust tickled his nose. He felt a sneeze coming on, but he couldn't move his hand through the spheres fast enough to reach his nose and muffle it. He sneezed 3 times, each one louder than the one before. Oswald didn't know if his dad was looking for him yet, but if he was, the sneezing ball pit had probably given away his location. Besides, it was too dark and too gross in there. He had to come up for air. As he rose, his ears were assaulted by the sound of beeping electronics and yelling and laughing kids. It took a few seconds for his eyes to adjust from the darkness of the pit to the brightness that now surrounded him. The flashing lights and vivid colors. He looked around and muttered, "Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore." The walls were lined with shiny arcade cabinets housing games he'd heard his dad talk about from his own childhood. Miss Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Frogger, Cubert, Galaga. A neon-lighted claw machine displayed plush blue elf-like creatures and orange cartoon cats. He looked down at the pit and realized he was surrounded by little kids, wallowing in the strangely clean and now brightly colored plastic orbs. He stood over the preschoolers like a giant. He stepped out of the pit to find his shoes, but they were gone. Standing on the colorful carpet in his sock feet, he looked around. There were lots of kids his age and younger, but there was something different about them. Everyone's hair was styled and fluffy, and the boys wore polo shorts in colors lots of guys wouldn't be caught dead in, like pink or aqua. The girls' hair was almost unbelievably big, with bangs that stood out from their foreheads like claws. They wore pastel-colored tops that matched their pastel-colored shoes. The colors, the lights, the sounds, it was sensory overload. And what was that music? Oswald looked around to see where it was coming from. Across the room, on a small stage, a trio of animatronic animals blinked their blank eyes, opened and closed their mouths, and pivoted back and forth in sync with a jangly, annoying song. There was a brown bear, a blue rabbit with a red bow tie, and some kind of bird girl. They reminded Oswald of the mechanical animals he had caught himself drawing lately. The difference was that he could never decide if the animals in his drawings were cute or creepy. These were creepy. Strangely, though, the dozen or so little kids surrounding the stage didn't seem to think so. They were wearing birthday party hats with pictures of the characters on them, and dancing and laughing and having a great time. When the smell of pizza hit Oswald's nose, he understood. He was still in Jeff's Pizza, or, more accurately, what Jeff's Pizza had been before Jeff took over. The ball pit was new and not roped off. All the outlets on the walls had arcade games plugged into them, and he turned around to face the left wall. In the shapes of the shadows on the wall of Jeff's Pizza was a mural of the same characters performing on the stage, the brown bear, the blue rabbit, and the bird girl. Below their faces were the words, "Freddy Fazbear's Pizza." Oswald's insides turned to ice water. How had this happened? He knew where he was, but he didn't know when it was, or how he got there. Somebody bumped into him, and he jumped more than normal. Since he felt the physical contact, this must not be a dream. He couldn't decide if this fact was good news or not. "Sorry, dude," the kid said. He was about Oswald's age, and he was wearing a light yellow polo with the collar turned up, tucked into what looked like a pair of dad jeans. The white tennis shoes he had on were huge, like clown shoes. He looked as if he had spent a lot of time fixing his hair. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, sure," Oswald said. He wasn't sure he was okay, actually, but he didn't know how to explain his situation. "I haven't seen you here before," the kid said. "Yeah," Oswald said, trying to figure out an explanation that wouldn't sound too weird. "I'm just, visiting here, staying with my grandma for a few weeks. This place is great, though, all these old games." "Old games," the kid said, raising an eyebrow. "You're joking, right? I don't know about where you're from, but Freddy's has the newest games around here. That's why the lines to play them are so long." "Oh, yeah, I was just kidding," Oswald said, because he couldn't think of anything else to say. He had heard his dad talk about playing a lot of these games when he was a kid. Absurdly hard games, he said, on which he had wasted many hours and many quarters. "I'm Chip," the kid said, running his fingers through his poofy hair. "Me and my buddy Mike," he nodded at a tall black kid wearing huge eyeglasses and a shirt with wide red and blue stripes. "We're about to play some skee-ball. Want to come with?" "Sure," Oswald said. It was nice to hang out with some other kids, even if they seemed to be kids from another time. He didn't think this was a dream, but it sure was as weird as one. "You got a name?" Mike said, looking at Oswald like he was some sort of strange specimen. "Oh, sure, I'm Oswald." He had been too weirded out to remember to introduce himself. Mike gave him a friendly slap on the back. "Well, I've got to warn you, Oswald, I'm a beast at skee-ball, but I'll go easy on you since you're new here." "Thanks for having mercy on me," Oswald said. He followed them to the skee-ball area. On the way, they passed somebody in a rabbit suit that looked like a yellow version of the rabbit on stage. Nobody else seemed to be paying attention to the rabbit guy, so Oswald didn't say anything. It was probably a Freddy Fazbear's employee dressed up to entertain the little kids at the birthday party. Mike wasn't kidding about being a beast at skee-ball. He easily beat Chip and Oswald 3 times, but he was a good sport, and they spent the whole time joking around. It felt good being included. But after a couple of games, Oswald started to worry. What time was it really? How long had his dad been looking for him? And how was he going to get back to his real life? Sure, he'd wanted to give Dad a scare, but he didn't want to scare the old man so much he got the police involved. "Hey, guys, I'd better run," Oswald said. "My grandma," he almost said texted me, but realized Chip and Mike would have no idea what he was talking about. Whenever this was, there were no cell phones. "My grandma's supposed to pick me up in a few minutes." "Okay, dude, maybe we'll catch you later," Chip said, and Mike gave a little nod and wave. Oswald left his companions, stood in a corner in his sock feet, and wondered what to do. He was having some kind of magical experience. He was late getting back, and he was missing his shoes. He was like some kind of mixed-up guy Cinderella. How to get back? He could walk out the front door of Freddy Fazbear's, but where would that take him? It might be the right place to find his dad's car waiting, but it wasn't the right time. Not the right decade, even. Then it dawned on him. Maybe the way out was the same way he got in. At the ball pit, a mom was telling her 2 kids it was time to leave. They tried to argue with her, but she turned on her stern mom voice and threatened them with an early bedtime. Once they got out, he got in. He sank beneath the surface before anybody could see that a kid over the height limit was in the ball pit. How long to stay under? Randomly, he decided to count to 100, then stand. He rose to his feet and found himself standing in the dusty, roped-off ball pit at Jeff's Pizza. He climbed out and found his shoes right where he left them. His phone vibrated in his pocket. He took it out and read, "We'll be there in 2 minutes." Had no time passed at all? He headed out the front door, and Jeff called, "See ya, kid," behind him. "This looks great, Mom," Oswald said, spearing a sausage link with his fork. "You're in a good mood today." Mom slid a waffle onto his plate. "Quite a contrast from yesterday when you were Mr. Grumpy Pants." "Yeah," Oswald said. "They're supposed to get my book in the library today." This statement was true, but it wasn't the reason Oswald was in a good mood. Of course, it wasn't like he could tell his parents. If he said, "I discovered a ball pit at Jeff's Pizza that lets me travel in time," Mom would be dropping the waffles and picking up the phone to call the nearest child psychologist. Oswald picked up the book at the library, but was too impatient to read it. He headed over to Jeff's Pizza as soon as it opened at 11. Jeff was in the kitchen when he got there, so he made a beeline for the pit. He shucked off his shoes, stepped in, and sank into the depths. Since it had seemed to work before, he counted to 100 before he stood. The animatronic band was playing some weird jangly song that partially drowned out by the bleeping, blipping, and dinging of a variety of video games. He wandered the floor and took in the video games, the whack-a-mole, the neon-lighted token suckers that let you win some tickets, but probably not if you pushed the button at the right time. Older kids crowded around the video games. Preschoolers climbed on the crayon-colored play equipment. Pink-Eye, Oswald thought, even though he had no room to talk the way he was diving into the ball pit these days. Everything looked as it had before. He had even caught sight of a calendar hanging in an open office that helped him pinpoint the date. 1985. Hey, it's Oswald. Chip was wearing a baby blue polo with his dad jeans and giant sneakers this time. Not a hair on his head was out of place. Hey, Oz, Mike said. He was wearing a Back to the Future t-shirt. Anybody ever call you that, like from The Wizard of Oz? They do now, Oz said, grinning. He had gone from having the loneliest summer ever to having 2 new friends and an actually good nickname. True, all of these seemed to be happening in the mid-1980s, but why get hung up on the details? Hey, Chip said, we just ordered a pizza. You want to come have some? We ordered a large, so there's more than we can eat. Speak for yourself, Mike said, but he was grinning. Okay, Chip said. How about I say it's more than we should eat? Want to join us? Oswald was curious how Freddy Fazbear's pizza compared with Jeff's. Sure, thanks. On the way to their table, they passed someone in that same yellow rabbit suit who was standing in a corner, still as a statue. Chip and Mike either didn't see him or ignored him. So Oswald tried to ignore him as well. Why hide in the corner like that? If he worked for the restaurant, surely he wasn't supposed to act all creepy. At the table, a young woman with big blonde hair and blue eyeshadow served them a large pizza and a pitcher of soda. In the background, the animatronic band played on. The pizza was pepperoni and sausage with a crispy crust, a nice change from plain cheese slices. You know, Mike said between bites, when I was little, I loved Freddy Fazbear's band. I even had a stuffed Freddy I used to sleep with. Now I look up at that stage and those things just give me the creeps. It's weird, huh? How stuff you like as a little kid gets creepy when you're older? Chip helped himself to another slice. Like clowns. Yeah, or dolls, Mike said between bites. Sometimes I look at my sister's dolls all lined up on the shelf in her room, and it's like they're staring at me. Or like that guy in the yellow rabbit costume, Oswald thought, but he didn't say anything. After they demolished the pizza, they played some skee-ball. Mike mopping the floor with him again, but being really nice about it. Oswald didn't worry about time anymore because apparently time here didn't pass the same way as it in his own time zone. After skee-ball, they took turns playing air hockey in pairs. Oswald was surprisingly decent at it, and even managed to beat Mike once. When they started to run low on tokens, Oswald thanked them for sharing their wealth, and said he hoped to see them again soon. After they said their goodbyes, Oswald waited until no one was looking, and disappeared back into the pit.